Hello, everyone, and welcome. Did Lisa, the co founder of this channel, and her mother have an actual experience with one or more of these creatures when Lisa was just a child? Let's listen in now as Lisa shares her very compelling story with us.
When I was about 9 years old, 10 at the most, we lived way out in the country. The woods were not very close to our house, but they were not far away, about maybe 80 yards. We had a lot of barns, pack houses, tobacco barns, all kinds of stuff in our backyard, maybe 40, 50 yards from the house. My dad sang with a gospel quartet, and he was gone for the night, as was typical for a lot of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, and my brother had gone with him. So that left myself and my mother home alone. We had eaten a watermelon that night right before my dad left, and the way we did that back in the day, he would cut it in half on some newspaper on the kitchen table, and we would stand around with a spoon and scoop out our fill and just eat till there was nothing left but the rind. Across the yard from us was a cornfield, and my mother, as she had done for years, after my dad left and we were there alone, it was getting dark. I was standing under the carport with the carport light on, just bouncing a basketball. It was too late to play basketball out in the yard. We didn't have any lights out in the yard. It was just before pitch dark. You could barely see. And I'm just bouncing the basketball under the carport, and my mother goes with the watermelon rind across the yard and throws it in the cornfield, like she had done 100 times before. She comes walking back across the yard, and I noticed she looked towards the barn and she did a double take. She didn't really show fear, but she upped her step. She kind of changed gears and started walking a lot faster. So when she got under the carport, she told me to come inside, and I'm like, why? I mean, we always played outside at night. But she told me again to come inside, and by the tone of her voice, I knew not to argue. I had no idea that anything sinister was going on. I just decided I better do what she said by the tone of her voice. So I go inside, and she locked the door behind me, and she closed the kitchen window and pulled the curtain. I didn't think anything of it. Well, later that night, it was a small 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. My parents, had the master bedroom, and I had a bedroom, and my brother had a bedroom. Well, my dad snored really, really bad, so my mother had taken to sleeping with me. Then my dad slept in the master bedroom, and my brother in his own room. And as usual, when they go to do their little gospel singings, they're going to be late because they have to get all their equipment up, pack everything up, lock the church up, and all that stuff. Well, it was probably close to midnight, and I'm in bed with my mom, and my bedroom was closest to the back door where the carport was. We didn't have any lights on. People didn't do that back then. You didn't have a lot of outside light, and we started hearing what I could only describe as chatter. At that time, at 9, 10 years old, I was very familiar with Bigfoot, but there wasn't a lot of information about it. I didn't know about the samurai chatter. I didn't know anything about that. All I knew was we were hearing voices, what sounded like adult voices, coming from the carport. There was at least 2 of them, and it sounded like talking, but we couldn't make any of it out. Nobody had driven up. We would have known. Nobody had driven into the driveway. There was no vehicles out there other than my mother's car. My dad had taken his truck. And I remember laying there absolutely terrified. I thought my mother was asleep. And then she kind of raised up. I think she thought I was asleep. She kind of raised up, and I said, Mama, what is that? Who is that? She said, honey, I don't know, but stay still and be quiet. The doors are locked, and your dad will be home soon. So whoever it is, they can't get in. Of course, they could have. She, didn't want to be honest with me. We had a lot of glass on our back door. All they would have had to done was broke through the glass and open the door. We didn't have deadbolts or chains, or just a little push lock on the doorknob. That's it. But she told me, don't be afraid. Whoever it is will go away. Your dad will be home soon. If they don't go away before then, they'll go away when he pulls up. I don't know how much time passed, but I'm a little kid. I eventually fall asleep. Well, the next morning, my parents always got up early. Whether they had to work or not, they got up at sunrise or before and were drinking coffee. And I don't think they realized I could hear them. My bedroom was, like I said, the first room down the hall. I could hear them talking. And I heard my mother tell my father that when she took the watermelon rind out to the cornfield, she saw what she said was a large black man standing by the barn. Well, of course, my dad was like, well, what was he wearing? What he looked like? She said, I don't know. I could only see him by moonlight. I couldn't see any clothing. I just saw a very large, what appeared to be a black man standing out by the barn. She said, I got Lisa in the house. I didn't tell her what I saw. I just got her in the house. And then she commenced to telling him that a couple hours later, while we were trying to sleep, we heard some kind of talking under the carport. Well, my dad was the kind of guy that he believed in things like Bigfoot. He believed in the paranormal, all kinds of stuff that my mother did not believe in. But he also believed in keeping us calm. He did not like to scare us. So he had all kinds of ideas. Oh, maybe it was some neighbors. And she was like, no, why would they walk up here and talk under the carport, seeing that your truck is not here and that all the lights are off? They debated this back and forth. And that's just one of the many situations that I dealt with growing up, that even though I was aware of Bigfoot and I was interested in Bigfoot, I did not put two and two together. I never thought they would be here, literally in my own backyard. I never thought that. I read every book I could get my hands on. There was no internet back then, so I didn't know about the chatter. I didn't know a lot about it, except that it was some big hairy beast that lived in the woods. But I never thought it would live in my own backyard. Now, all these years later, 40 years later, I look back on so many things of my childhood, and I'm not saying it was Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I'm not saying that it was, but all the things I hear people talk about, the sounds they make, the rock throwing, the bluff charges, the things they do, the sign they leave, I look back and I'm like, wow, it was literally in my backyard. And I had no idea.
Wow. Lisa's childhood encounter leaves me with chills. Could she have experienced Bigfoot without even realizing it at the time? Many people have strange, unexplained memories from their past that only make sense years later when they learn about Sasquatch. Maybe you've had a similar experience and just didn't know what you were seeing until now. If you're unfamiliar with Bigfoot but live near wooded areas with water and food sources, you might be closer to an encounter than you think. Start by looking for signs like stick structures, tree twists, or even unusual footprints. The woods are full of clues. You just have to know where to look. This channel is all about sharing stories and helping you discover the signs of Bigfoot in your own backyard. Have you had a strange encounter? Share it with us, anonymously if you prefer, and we might just feature it in a future video. We're also launching a podcast soon, so if you'd like to be a guest and tell your story, reach out to us. Stay curious, keep exploring, and we'll see you in the next episode where Lisa shares another chilling childhood story that might just change how you see the woods forever.